All right, and welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro Podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and thank you as always for joining me on the show. I sure appreciate each and every one of you that spends the time tuning in, listening to either the interviews, the insights from Spirit, the energy updates, which today is the June energy update. And it's a good one. And I think I said that about May too, but this one is a good one in a different way. So if you will remember, May was about plot twists. May had this energy asking us to embrace the plot twists, which would help bring us towards our destiny or our blueprint. The divine timings and alignments of things sometimes requires these plot twists. So I hope you guys all managed some of those really well. Some people might have just totally skated through. Others might have felt like they hit a wall, but it was interesting how these plot twists were playing out. And a lot of that had to do with the alignment of time. And we're going to talk about that in a few moments, but I want to talk about a couple other things before we get diving into time. A couple other things that Spirit brought through about the energy of June. So in terms of astrological alignments, first of all, for the month of June, the one Spirit wanted me to mention was, first of all, Mercury retrograde ends June 3rd. That's a good thing. We can have some energy moving forward. We will really feel the energy of it shifting in direct motion at the latest by the 11th, I believe. That's kind of called the Mercury Shadow. So after a planet goes direct, sometimes it's a shadow energy that some people might feel and some others don't. But really, it's all the things that we reviewed and pondered while we kind of rested, stood back, reflected on where we are, reassessed some things. Now with Mercury going direct, we get to really see those things be put into motion. And that's a really good thing. And that's a big thing about what the energy of June brings, is it brings this a little bit gentler flow of movement. May with the plot twist was a bit more confronting type movement, but June is a little bit more reflective, which I love because as well, we have the summer solstice on the 21st, which is like the actual official arrival of summer. And that arrival of summer, the whole month of June, having to do with the sun, is this energy of illumination, things that you've been maybe feeling scattered about or felt like you're in the dark are being illuminated for you. As well, the sun and being able to spend more time in the sun helps you connect to solar consciousness. There is consciousness in light rays. There's consciousness in the frequency of light. If you think about it, some of the highest beings of consciousness do not need to embody, and they express themselves as beings of light, right? They're like, we're not embodied beings, we are beings of light. And that's just like the three guides of the light that I channel often. They are light beings, which is similar to the light energy that comes from the sun. And similar thing goes to as well, just as another example, I once had an opportunity to connect with the Seven Sister star system, the Pleiades star system. And in that, each of the sons of those seven sisters presented themselves or introduced themselves to me as a consciousness, which was fantastic. So if that's possible there, the same is possible here. So our sun that gives us nice golden tan and helps our flowers and greenery grow and gives us warmth also has information. And so when you spend time, of course, safely in the sun, you have an opportunity to connect into that consciousness. And the way that it connects in with you is it moves through frequency. And so that's what Spirit wants to remind you, is time spent in the sun and reflection and pondering gives opportunities for higher conscious thought. Also, it's a higher frequency when our bodies are warmer, so we can actually sometimes channel higher frequency information because we're vibrating faster. So that's a cool thing. And that's why they're saying the energy of June will be a little bit easier because of that heat factor, the sun factor, and all of that. Now, that's going to be important again when we talk about time, which I'll get to in a minute. Now, in reflection to these plot twists, before I move on, I want to read this quote that I saw from Source Messages on Instagram. If you guys haven't checked it out, they're beautiful messages daily and they resonate with me so often. So check out @Source Messages. But they said, the universe is confirming what you already knew, that the plot twist was that your trauma would turn into growth, that your difficulties would become abundance. Your anxiousness would become memories of a life that once was. So even if you are in the middle of these transitions, you are sliding towards all things not only deserved, but earned. Not only deserved, but earned. That, man, is that ever true? And I really feel like my guides led me to that because it's about that co-creation, right? Some parts are destiny and some things are essentially deserved because they're part of our destiny. And, we worked hard to attain the goal. And so it's well deserved. But then there's also, this could apply too, but there's the earned part. And the earned part is when we choose to heal and transmute traumas, to heal and transmute who we are, and consciously play a role in who we are becoming. That is earned. So the synchronicities and the goodness that comes to you because of what you have done and the work on yourself and the work you do with others, that is earned, and that is equally celebrated by spirit. So for those of you that, again, are in that transition point, just give yourselves a pat on the back and know that the universe is supporting you so big for the work that you're putting in as well. So I definitely wanted to share that. Now, some of the things that Spirit wanted to say too for this month is this month, there is a lot to do with divine timings at play, again, because of what we have worked hard to do, worked hard to earn, to manifest. So they said, remember that what you're working on now, stepping into this month of June, is very divinely guided. So that means there's a lot of things that you have put out to the universe that are falling into place now. So don't miss those opportunities. Don't miss the synchronistic events that help this fall into place for you. Notice them. And when you notice them, you can even give gratitude to noticing them. If you're like, oh, Spirit, I see what you're doing. This is cool. These things are finally coming to me now. So they're saying, like, notice it because you helped plant the seeds of this. And now it is starting to grow. And Spirit right now is showing me like a garden and it's sprouting. And they're like, remember, you did a lot of seed planting in the spring. And now with the sun, these can turn into sprouts and then into full plants and flowers. And so they're saying, notice this, because what is happening is the higher realms are wanting to basically shower many people with blessings. And so they say to really open your heart to receive. And that opening our hearts to receive is really important because sometimes, when we move through traumas, healing, all of that, that's a lot of hard work. And we tend to kind of close the heart a little bit out of protection. But some of the bounty that's coming in for many people is very heart-based bounty. And so for some, that could be relationships and love in that way, but it can also be like family healing, friend healing, sense of self healing. You may need to open your heart to self, right? And maybe you have, but Spirit is saying, open it a little bit more. If you open it a little bit more, we can bring in even more goodness to you. And then that brings me to their next message, which is basically, they were saying we've barely scratched the surface of the unlimited potential, and that we are getting ready to experience this firsthand. How cool is that, right? Like, again, all of these alignments right now are coming together for us in this beautiful month. So with that being said, there's going to be a little bit of a balancing act that is required from us, because it's going to be this sort of ebb and flow of divine alignments of timing. And this is where we get into the concept of time. So this ebb and flow of divine alignments of timing comes in, and there may be a little bit less in the form of messages or communication, because now is the time to, I know it's June, but it's to harvest, to see the fruits of our labor, versus simply the messages of insights and guidance. Because what Spirit told me, and this was really interesting, is that throughout the month of June, there may very well, for many people, feel like it's almost like a radio silence to the spirit world. And that would be more specifically with your personal connection. It doesn't mean you won't feel the spirit world, but if you're used to usually communicating or seeing numbers or songs or those kinds of things, that's actually going to be pulled back a little bit for many, not everyone, but for many, because what's happening, this is the cool part, is the higher realms are changing the construct of time. Now, the reason why I say this is, okay, how far back do I go? So time in 3D is considered linear because we have a 24-hour clock that leads into a 7-day week, that leads into on average 30-day month, yada, yada, and it goes on, right? Now, that is because we're measuring it on 3D physics principles of linear progression through time. But time in the higher realms is not linear. So it doesn't have a straight line design. And I mean, if we look at quantum physics, we see that space-time can bend and turn a corner and all of that. So if we can conceptualize that from a somewhat scientific approach, we can see that the higher realms, time is actually happening in many different directions. The way that they kind of showed time, for those of you not watching this online right now, time almost looks like a flower with many different petals. We could say it that way. And the way that it is designed right now has a certain frequency key that is more easily manipulated by energies that wish to keep humanity dormant. Right? Isn't that so interesting? So there's energies, whatever you call them, whether you consider reptilian, dark forces, the Anunnaki, whichever direction resonates for you, we're just going to call it a darkness that wants to keep humanity limited. And this is why we have had so many time slips, glitches in reality, feeling like time is slowing down, time is stretching, time has been paused. A lot of that has happened because there's a lot of attempts to prevent, in one case, the annihilation of humanity through nuclear war. This is something that the higher realms will not allow to happen on their watch. It doesn't benefit the planet, it certainly doesn't benefit humanity, and it doesn't benefit the cosmic collective. So greater than Earth, and even greater than just our solar system in the Milky Way galaxy, it has a ripple effect through galaxies, right? So for humans to, mess with nuclear war, they will absolutely not allow that. So they will prevent it. And the way that they do that is through changing time. But what's happened is these darker energies also know how to change time. And for some of you that are thinking like, what, how is that possible? There are different military factions that know algorithms, if you want to visualize it that way, the equations, or I guess we could just go with equations of time and time jumping, how to open portals to time, time travel, all that kind of stuff. And it is something that has also come from the higher realms and given to some people in humanity, but it is something that cannot be manipulated. And so dark energies will try to manipulate that. And so essentially what I'm getting at here, why the energy of June really matters, is Spirit is going to change the template of time. So we won't necessarily notice that. It's not going to change our 24-hour time clock. It's not going to change how we move through time. But the design of time, if it was one flower, say the design was that of a rose, and then they would morph and change it into still being a flower, but instead of a rose, it's a lotus. So different amount of petals, different design, different angles, all of that, which no longer allows for the same frequency key to be placed on it to then manipulate it. And so you may wonder, like, okay, so that's a wild idea. So why would Spirit tell us that? Wouldn't that allow dark energy to prevent it? And they were saying it's actually important that people know about it because they can anchor the awareness of this in consciousness. And when things are done in the light and in consciousness, it is known. And so then it is more cemented in the reality of this frequency, which is why Spirit is sharing it, which I thought was fantastic. So the fact that they're changing the design of time behind the scenes so that it can no longer be manipulated back and forth, it requires them some time to do that. And by changing that construct of time, they basically said for the month of June, for many, it'll feel like spirit is in radio silence, but it's not necessarily that way. They are just spending a lot of time shifting the energy, the construct of time, which would change the way information would then come down to us. And so for some, it may feel like it's delayed or it's not necessarily there, but they're saying, please don't worry. We are with you in every which way. We are working on a project right now, which is truly helping humanity and the trajectory of where humanity is going. Stick with us. And that's where that idea of the balancing act kind of comes in. And also how they're saying there's a lot of divine timing that's going to come into play for people. So we will see more action pieces in our reality come down in terms of alignments, but a little less communication of next steps forward. So that's why the spirit world really wants us to embrace the happenings of what happens for us during this month and not worry if we feel like we're somewhat disconnected. It's okay. Spirit's busy working on some special ops project, if we could jokingly look at it that way. And they need our support in terms of knowledge. And so when we don't trip ourselves back into an energy of fear of like, oh my gosh, why is spirit not talking to me? Where are they? What's going on? Am I not connected? We go into fear, which lowers our frequency. But this way, by knowing that that's happening, we can just, hold our ground, hold our energy, and then they will be back connecting more deeply again very, very soon. And they're saying that with their message of before, where they said, you've barely scratched the surface, you have unlimited potential, and you're getting ready to experience that firsthand. So in the meantime, while Spirit is doing this beautiful work on behalf of humanity behind the scenes, we can spend our time connecting into that solar consciousness of the sun. We can connect into the energy of Gaia, of Mother Earth, because she is like right there with us. We can get into the present moment. And in that present moment, we can focus so much more on what's happening in our world for us right now. And we can really start trusting in the trajectory of where humanity is going. And I know sometimes that can be really hard based on what we see in the news and in media and stuff, but Spirit is saying, come back to the central energy of your heart where you know the greater picture within, you know the resonance of that greater picture within. Spend time there. Hold the light, hold the frequencies, anchor them here on this planet as we are meant to do to help all of humanity ascend, because they, and I mean the higher realms, Mother Earth already, are not willing to go backwards. They're willing to shake it up, to reveal everything that needs to shift, but they are not willing to go backwards, and so are doing everything they can to shift that. And so we can do our part by grounding our energy here and staying strong in it and supporting it. And I just think this is a beautiful month to do that, because we're not doing this during a Mercury retrograde. We're doing this during a warm summer month of sun, of brightness, of solstice. Gosh, beautiful things on their way for us all. So I will leave you with that for our June energy update. I hope that inspires you all to really stand in your place of power, stand in your place of feeling confident in the reason why you're here on this planet at this time, knowing that you matter. And honestly, this message is for you. It really is. Spirit was like, this is an individual message for each and every person. And I thought that was interesting because the way they explained it to me was, yes, it is a collective energy, but it is a divinely specific message of the events that are going to unfold, the divine timings, the barely scratching the surface. They're like, it applies to everyone's ears that hears this. So I thought that was so cool. And they were so serious, but excited serious when they brought that through. So I definitely want to share that. So anyways, as always, thank you guys so much for listening. Please do share this podcast with anyone you feel, especially this episode, with anyone you feel that would really benefit from the knowledge of holding that frequency through the month of June. It's really important that we do that. And I hope it helps inspire you for your month ahead. So have a beautiful rest of your day, everybody. Please do check out avalonspirit.com if you're looking to deepen your practice, your journey. If you want to learn more of your own skills during this downtime, you can check out my Lightworker Mentorship Circle. It's a 4-week course that you can do on your own time. And or you can do it with me live, but that won't be again until the fall. So you can get the pre-recorded ones, dive into your own gifts and building your connection with spirit. And as well, check out the rest of this Avalon Spirit Journey guides. If you want to be guided down your path through Akashic record readings, past life regressions, mediumship readings, healing, laser, crystal therapy healing, shamanic healing, astrology, you name it. There's so many beautiful options on there. So definitely check that out. Big hugs to you all, and I will see you soon.